This is one of those topics I get asked quite a bit as a serial entrepreneur. I started my first company or companies in my teens. I have gone on to start over a dozen companies and brands since then, invest in others along the way. And the question is, do I need to go to business school? And my answer is no, you don't. Would it be nice? Possibly. I didn't. I didn't go to. I didn't go to college. I barely went to high school. I was working multiple jobs as a teenager, trying to help my father pay some bills. We didn't have a lot of cash, um, but I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Um, and in that same thought of, I wonder, like, oh, if I did go to business school, would I be further ahead? I don't know. That I don't know. Did I take a couple college classes in my 20s? Yeah, but I was bored. I wanted to learn. You take sociology, you take some of this other stuff. But I mean, other than that, it was more. It wasn't going to school to get a business education. I was already creating and running companies by that point. And what I see going on right now is a lot of talk of let's shift the MBA because things are changing. And I kind of say leave the MBA alone. The Boston Consultings and the McKinseys, Wall Street, the big Fortune 500s, they want the quant side MBA type people. Um, the cool thing about an MBA is when you hire an MBA, you know what you're getting. Like this is, you start shifting that, and all of a sudden the MBA loses its meaning to me. And I own a couple recruiting companies and executive search companies. And I'm saying that because it's like when you hire somebody from a certain school or a certain program with a certain degree, you have certain expectations of what you're getting. And I'm saying don't shift that. What I think you need to see is more master's programs designed around different topics. And you can still have a business school type of grad program or even undergrad. That's, just business focused, but I don't know if we need to change the MBA, for example. But I also believe trying to teach entrepreneurship is just something I think you have or you don't have. And I can't explain that. Most of the wealthy people I know are entrepreneurs who didn't go to college, for example. They're very scrappy, clever, creative people that they don't always think like the business school people do. And they're both smart. They just have different skill sets at the end of the day. Um, it's one of those things where I was just talking to Kane about this, and he was telling me a story. And the first thing he was talking to somebody, and the first thing that they talked about was starting their companies. They went and got all the social handles online, and they're doing all this stuff. And it's like I'm thinking about making sales calls, right? I'm thinking about getting the brand together quick, getting the website up, getting a contact list, and I know that you have to sell. And I'm not talking about these companies that get $200 million in funding and unicorns. I'm talking about just starting a business. I know it needs to be sold, and you're just not going to jump onto Google and have this sick SEO play with these like big DA links, and you're automatically going to get a bunch of search engine traffic organically. Those days are gone. And the ROI on AdWords is miserable for something. I know you got to sell stuff, so that's where I go. Because out of all the companies I built, you want revenue, you got to sell some stuff. And I just think completely different than what I see a lot of people coming out of business school. But if you're going to Coke or Johnson and Johnson or these huge companies, they don't need you to go sell something and develop strategies. When you're right out of school, they're well-established, multi-billion-dollar brands, and that's where I think the MBA serves its purpose. Now, are you just going to teach entrepreneurship? You can, teach people entrepreneurship by making them start a business and walk them through everything you got to do. Don't spend 2 months messing around with business cards and logos and letterhead. You can change that later. This is where I start the question: like, do you even need to go to college anymore? If you want to become a doctor, go to college to become a doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, you go to school to be a lawyer. Do I go to school to be an entrepreneur? Do I go to school to run my business? I don't know. I again, I'm looking at the people I know that are wealthy and very successful in business, and none of them went to college. If they did, it was like part time for a little bit. One of those people did go to college. They only got a bachelor's degree, and they do extremely well. But they're also one of those people that I think we're going to do extremely well no matter what they do. So you look around at how many like successful business people didn't complete a bachelor's degree, and it's pretty mind blowing. But that's not. You realize they just got that grit, they got that perseverance, they got that work ethic. At the end of the day, it's what was that show Trump had, The Apprentice? Was it The Apprentice? I don't know. Some show where they tried to start a business or something, but while it's all TV, you kind of got an inside look to what was going on. Oh, there's an old documentary called Startup.com. Check that thing out sometime. Or E-Dreams about Joseph Park. He was doing the one-day delivery before Amazon was even thinking about that. You get a little insight on like what you got to do to get a business off the ground. And I'm always thinking sales, right? You rarely ever see a company go out of business that had too much sales, but you see them go out of business all the time when they don't have enough sales. And this was one of those things that you run into people that it doesn't matter what degree they have. They want to start a business, but they won't make a sales call. They won't go meet a customer. And it's like, well, who's going to do this for you? You can't just sit around and play around in Excel all day and run different numbers and figure out where we could be. What are the projections? And this is the market size. At some point, you got to go do the hard stuff. But it's cool if you get funding, then you go hire people to do the hard stuff. So, I don't know. Anyways, I'm saying leave the MBA alone. If you're thinking about starting a business, I don't know if going and getting a business degree is. You're better off just working and figuring things out and getting customers and delivering products and services and figuring out where there's improvements and getting some more customers and making improvements and figuring out better ways to market and better ways to sell and better ways to increase lifetime customer value, how to increase your customer retention, focus on customer service. Like you don't need to go to college to learn that stuff. If you want to learn to do some crazy quantitative math and derivatives and all this stuff to do complex things on Wall Street, then yeah, you probably should go get an MBA. But if you're looking at starting a new restaurant or a new marketing business or whatever it may be, I don't know if you need to go to B school. It's look at it this way. I did another episode where I talked about the ROI of college because I think we don't think about that. When you're 18 years old, you don't know anything. They just tell you, go to college. And a lot of people that went to college and they blew $100,000 to get a degree they don't even want anymore. And I was talking to someone about that, and I said, hey, do you know how much money you'd have if you would have took that $100,000 your parents gave you at 18 and you just threw it in the S&P 500 and kept reinvesting it, and this is 25 years? Like, do you know how much money you have? And they're like, no. And I'm like, probably like $1.3 million. And they look at me like, oh my God. And because they ended up getting a degree that didn't do anything for them. And it's like, what if you would have invested that? I'm looking at kids right now and talking to parents like, do you want to spend 150, 200 grand to send your kid to school and grad school? Or do you just want to give them the money to go start their first company? And they're like, James, that's a really interesting question. Because you start wondering, like, what is the value? Again, if you're going to go do something very specific, it makes sense. You want to be a doctor, you go to school, and you go to med school, and you become a doctor, and it makes sense. Do you want to go to school and spend $100,000 on a communications degree? To not go into communications? Or to go start your own? It doesn't make any sense. So, just something to think about. I think the best way to be an entrepreneur is to go do stuff. Create things. Create companies. Create ideas. Sell them. Fail. Do it again. And you keep grinding and you figure it out. I don't think there's any classroom. You're gonna step into a classroom with a professor trying to teach you entrepreneurship when he or she has probably never signed the front of a check for another employee before. I mean, maybe they have. Maybe there are business owners, operators that are in class, but there's definitely professors out there that do that and they're teaching you this stuff, but they've never ran a business. I tend to listen to people that have $1 million in payroll, right? The people that are employing 50, 100, 200, 500 people. I tend to listen to them a little bit more than something coming out of a textbook, from an entrepreneur's perspective anyways. So that's my thoughts. If you want to start a business, my thought is go start a business. Don't spend 4 or 6 years going to school to become entrepreneurial minded. You want to be entrepreneurial minded, go watch Shark Tank. I don't know. Go find a weakness in the market. You don't need to invent a new market. Go find a weakness. Find a business that's doing bad business and just go do it better. You can do that all day long. There's so much bad business, bad services, bad food. There's so much opportunity out there. Go find one that you can crush and go do it. You don't need to go to college for that one. You want to get on Wall Street? You want to go work for a big Fortune 500? You want to climb the ladder fast? Get an MBA. But you want to be an entrepreneur? I say go be an entrepreneur. That's my insights anyways. Until then, I'm going to catch you on the next one.